Hello and welcome to the show. Now, for today's hill climb monster, we have got a first in this series, as the Corsa VXR will be the first front-wheel drive car to be converted for use for tackling a snowy hill. Now, traditionally, when you convert a front-wheel drive car to all-wheel drive, they do tend to become quite oversteery. However, I don't know what might happen with this vehicle, as I haven't really driven the Corsa, and I don't know what's going to happen when they come to tackling the snow. So this might be very difficult to drive up the mountain. It might be pretty good. We will, have to wait and see. Now, we do have plenty of PI to play with. The Corsa is a relatively high C-Class vehicle. We're going to start off with the drivetrain swap, of course. Make it all-wheel drive. Actually, still keeps it in C-Class, interestingly. We might have to come back to the engine. I'm having a sneaking suspicion we probably will in this car. Tyres-wise, of course, we need our snow compound tyres, and that will put us up into A-Class. How big are our tyres will we get? 245s on the front, and I'm going to imagine 245s on the rear as well. Yeah, okay. I mean, they're a bit on the small side. The Volvo got away with, I think it was 265s. Did the BMW have 255s? I can't actually remember now, the 507. We have got away with some smaller tyres. If the car is still going to be planted enough, I don't know whether it will on the Corsa. We are going to be wanting some Forza Aero. Please have the crazy double silly wing that the hatchbacks of old used to have. Hey, we do! Oh, the good old days of Forza 4, where every hatchback had this sort of a wing. There we go. Yes, it shall give us double the downforce at the back there. Alright, we're going to want brakes. We are definitely going to be wanting brakes. We're going to be wanting the off-road suspension along with the anti-roll bars and roll cage. Now, weight reduction is an interesting one. Ideally, yeah, of course you want full weight reduction. It doesn't actually. In fact, we are going to go for full weight reduction because that doesn't save as much weight as I was hoping or would like, really. Yeah, there's not a huge amount of weight come out of that car at all. £2,800 is heavier than I was expecting, actually, from the hatchback. I was really thinking that would be getting down in terms of weight. Now, the engine, I did have a brief look at before starting filming. I am pretty sure. I mean, these are traditionally your two biggest. Well, that's only 29 horsepower from the turbo. That's not great, is it? And that's the same horsepower, yeah. I mean, okay, it is. It got 1.6 to begin with. I'm doubting that that's going to really ever get near the top of S1 class. Surprisingly, these sort of other engine bits are jumping up PI, but it's not really going to be enough. Not feasibly. So we are going to have to go for the engine swap, which I am okay with in this car, to be honest. The options that we have are the 2-litre i4, or we can go for the Turbo Rally engine. Turbo Rally engine is, you know, a half-decent engine. However, we are limited to the performance you can get out of it. So we're going to go for the i4. If I remember correctly, this can get about 700 horsepower when it is all done. So we should have more than enough power available in this vehicle. It starts off with a little bit less torque than you get from the Vauxhall standard engine, but by the time we are finished with it, there will be plenty. There will be plenty of power, there will be plenty of torque. It's a little bit heavier than the car's standard engine as well, but as I said, there's very little in the way of options we have with this vehicle. I mean, already we are up to the sort of power levels that we were getting from the Corsa's engine, and we haven't touched the big power parts. The cams, that'll put it up to 469 horsepower, and the turbo, that will jump it up even more, up to 600 horsepower with our Corsa. Now, we are down on torque, but as I said, it's the only option we have with this car. 618 horsepower in this. In fact, we're going to be more powerful with this car than we were with the Nissan. Admittedly, we do have much smaller tyres on our Vauxhall. That's a scary prospect. Now, do we go for the full 707 horsepower? Now, it does add a bit of weight, although if we do that, we might be able to get some weight back off the car elsewhere. PI actually proving to be a little bit difficult to get this to the very, very tippy top of S1 class. I don't think it's actually going to make it. We're going to be a few PI short. My fear and my kind of expectation with this car is that it might not quite have the control. If we're adding this much in the way of power parts to a car that's I say relatively light. It's not the worst power to weight ratio we've seen. Is this worth it? Bugger it. You know what? Let's go for it. 719 horsepower in our Vauxhall. I'm hoping it's going to be controllable. If it is controllable, it might be relatively quick, but that's a big if. That's a very, very big if indeed. So it is to the Devil's Corners hill climb with our Corsa, where I am going to get 3 runs to try and go as fast as possible. Our current leader, the BMW 507, has a time 1:55.9. Now, I'm not particularly expecting the Corsa to be challenging that, although I don't really have a huge amount of reference points with this sort of car as to any kind of idea as what we might expect. Under 2 minutes is the sort of first goal to go for, and then we'll see how we might be faring it going any quicker than that. Yeah, the big concern I have with this car, acceleration is not too shabby at all, is whether we will have ludicrous amounts of oversteer. We've just not got very much grip at all through that first corner. Yeah, kind of just see how it goes. It doesn't feel the horrendously twitchy oversteeriness that we might have seen from some sort of front-wheel drive converts in the past, but we also seem to be, it's quite odd, it just seems to be generally lacking corner grip, but well, we've got acceleration on our side. That is, it's got some serious acceleration in fact to it. Oh, get turned into this long nasty corner through there. Jump on that power as soon as we can. Yeah, we don't have too much on power oversteer. We're not kind of wiggling the tail around a lot as we try to get out of these corners. Not so good in terms of acceleration down that part of the course, only managing 114 miles an hour. Will we crack the 100 over here? Yeah, 106 across there, but then we struggled out. I don't know, maybe I was just a bit dodgy coming out of that sort of double apexed corner. It is quite possible. Now, we head up towards the hairpin, one of the tightest, in fact, probably the tightest corner on the track. All these cars do try and negotiate. We are cleanly around there. And the next part, we try to carry a bit too much speed, end up going slightly exploring. Oh, and there is some oversteer through there. We catch it, though. It's not been a particularly clean run from the Vauxhall. There's the that's the normal handling characteristic. This car seems to handle differently each corner. There's just no, there's really not a huge amount of consistency in. Oh dear, that's too deep. I'm trying to carry too much speed. Never mind. And around the final corner we go, very, very sideways. It's not a good first run. Not a good first run at all, really, from the Vauxhall 203. Yeah, it was scruffy in quite a few places, and I can definitely do better. So, as we head on to our second run, I am thinking we're going to need to be quite nice and smooth with this car. Sort of throwing it about the course, not really working. It's not got the grip to get away with it. Whether that be through understeer, whether it be oversteer from time to time, we've just not got the grip to get away with really, really throwing the car at the course. So we're going to have to be a little bit more careful here. I do fear that we might not quite have the composure in this car to really go massively, massively fast. If I'm having to be cautious sort of already with the vehicle. Having said that, sometimes you can find a lot of speed from this sort of thing if we don't end up very, very close to ending up in the crash barrier. Stop oversteering, put some of that power down onto the road here. Are we going to get a better run down this back straight? Perhaps not, because we were, oh no, that's a bit more like 118 miles an hour. Yeah, just not sliding. Got to really watch for sliding the back end of the car about. It is not something you want to have happen up here. Yes, in real life, sliding cars around on the snow and so on can work for getting speed. On Forza, it doesn't. So every time we're sliding about, we are losing time that we could be using for going forward. Now, when you've got as high-powered cars as these, even with all-wheel drive, there's going to be an element of sliding about across the road. It is very much unavoidable, but you've got to try and keep it to a minimum. Now, we are, I think, a little bit better this time around. We really struggle in that mid-sector with the Vauxhall. The first bit we're not too bad on. The middle sector is where I think we are losing a fair bit of tyre. That's not too bad off the icy straight, but still a tad out of control as we slow it down for the penultimate corner. One last turn to go. We've got that all horribly, horribly wrong as we rush towards the line. It was better that time. Yeah, that final corner was a mess. This is not a particularly easy car to drive quickly, I will say that much. Well, it is a familiar amount of time that we need to make up if we are going to reach our goal of getting underneath the 2-minute mark. We need just over a second. Now, this can be done. We have found this sort of time on final runs in the past. I think, though, we might be struggling with the Corsa. We lack grip. We lack grip big time. The front end doesn't really want to get turned in, and the back end is constantly wanting to slide around or spin the wheels. We just don't have big enough tyres, or the chassis isn't good enough to deal with 700 horsepower. Let's face it, you know, the VXR Corsa was never designed to deal with 700 horsepower. However, a lot of cars that have had many horsepowers in this series were also not designed to deal with that many. But yeah, I can't carry quarter speed in this car. It's just, there's nothing. That's not particularly fast that I'm trying to get through there, and the car just doesn't get turned. It's wanting to spin the rear wheels. It's wanting to slide across the road. Come on, Vauxhall. Ugh. Its saving grace is it is relatively fast on the acceleration front. It's not the quickest, you know, it's not quite up there as fast as the BMW, but it really is not bad at all in terms of getting out of some of these corners. I'm actually now trying leaving it in third, see if that does a little bit better. I mean, the turbos aren't going to like that particularly on this engine. However, it's got us away with less wheel spin in this sort of hairpin area. Not a good sort of corner for the Corsa. Low speed acceleration zone means we have lots of wheel spin and oversteer, and tight corner and our lack of turn-in is problematic as we head now onto the icy straight. Avoid patches of ice. Relatively good across the bumps as well, I will give the Corsa that. All that very sideways from the Vauxhall once more. I don't think quite sideways with the Donkavort that got massively sideways there. Not quite the most sideways we've seen, but still pretty sideways as we head into the penultimate corner. I was a little bit too late on the brakes there around the final turn. Come on, find some grip, car, as we head towards the line. It's not going to be quick enough. Yeah, that's not a not a great car. Not a great time from the Vauxhall. It's going to go in. It's not last, okay? It's not last. It's going to go into 25th place. It beats the Subaru Brat, that was stupid. It beats the Honda S800, that was also stupid. They had even more power, much less weight, and Diddy tyres, and they didn't really work at all. And it does beat the Lotus Exige. However, we are down on the Renault Alpine with 2/10, in fact, exactly 2/10 of a second down on the Renault Alpine, the Nismo GTR. Both of those cars, and the Jaguar XJ220 to an extent, were quite underpowered. Certainly in terms of power to weight ratio, those three were struggling a bit on this course. You know, we're down on the Skyline. We're half a second off our target. In the end, there isn't enough grip. There just isn't enough grip in the Corsa. The front end doesn't want to get turned in, and if it does, then the back end wants to come round. Doesn't quite work. It still does suffer from that front-wheel drive converted syndrome. It is, yeah, quite oversteering at times around this course. But yeah, even if we didn't have that problem, we have a lack of front-end turning as well. So put all that together, and it's not quite working. But there we go. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.